Wow, Barack Obama opens a can of worms.
Obama's call out to black men touches a nerve among Democrats. Is election year misogyny at play? Barack Obama had frank words for black men who may be considering sitting out the election, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president, and you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that, he said Thursday to Harris-Walz campaign volunteers and officials at a field office in Pittsburgh, America's first black president touched a nerve among Democrats worried about Vice President Kamala Harris's chances of becoming.
My understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences, and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing to making sure that our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents can afford medicine. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. Anybody you are talking to in a barbershop, anybody you are talking to in your house, in your family.
And staying with the U.S. presidential election, former President Barack Obama has opened a can of worms after he lectured black men to vote for Kamala Harris while speaking in Pennsylvania last week. America's first black president had some frank discussions with young black voters who could play a crucial role in this year's election. Asking black men to accept the entry of women, particularly women of color, in corridors of power, Barack Obama's words managed to touch a raw nerve. Though most black men agreed to President Obama's sentiments, some made some rather strong objections. Our next report brings you more.
Former U.S. President Barack Obama has found himself on the wrong side of American voters, particularly black men. Last week, the 44th President of America gave a blistering performance in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Speaking in the swing state, Obama called on men and black men to vote for Kamala Harris.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. I've noticed this especially with some men who seem to think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down, is a sign of strength. And I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. Real strength is about working hard and carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions and telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That is what we should want for our daughters and for our sons, and that is what I want to see in a president of the United States of America.
And that wasn't it. as Barack Obama continued to open a bigger can of worms after addressing the crowds from the podium. He spoke to a group of black men separately.
Pittsburgh. How are you?
He urged them to embrace women in power and pick Kamala Harris as their next president.
I'm going to go ahead and just speak some truths, if you don't mind. Yes. Because my understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that.
But the lecturing didn't stop there. As Barack Obama put on a stern fatherly act, he asked black men to learn from black women, whom the former president claims are against Donald Trump.
Senator, because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you? That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
What Obama meant was that the Democratic Party is seeing a slump in support for Kamala Harris among black men, and that it was a major concern in the upcoming presidential election. What started out as a fatherly lecture came back to bite back Obama. Black men took to social media to share their frustration. While some cracked jokes about the former president, others told him to get lost and go back to his mansion. Most users said that they did not need anyone to tell them whom they should be voting for. Some black men took pot shots at Barack Obama. One user even said that Obama acted like a black father himself by disappearing for years and only coming back when he had the authority. Many accused Obama, who was also the first black American president, of doing nothing for the black community. Barack Obama wanted to gather more support for Vice President Kamala Harris, but he's managed to do the opposite. Recent polls show that not just black men and black voters, but even Latin Americans are pivoting towards Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Support for the Republican candidate among black voters is at an all-time high in over a decade. Meanwhile, black support for the Democrats has fallen by 14%. Among Hispanic voters, Donald Trump is seeing a rise among Latino men, while Hispanic women still support Kamala Harris in large numbers. But Trump is trying to change the tide. He knows that he's growing popular among the Hispanic community. And this is despite the Republican frequently calling Latino countries a shithole while terming Hispanic migrants as criminals and rapists. Identity and race politics is peaking in the United States. The Democrats are reaching out to people of color, and so is Donald Trump. He already enjoys the support of white male voters by an overwhelming number. while the Vice President enjoys support from women and women of color. After migration, economy and abortion, race has made an entry in the race for the White House.
Hey, hello friends, we come to the end. We have just subscribed yet. Press the subscribe button and the like button and the share button. Thank you and have a nice day.